Greetings, I come to you from an undisclosed location here in Middle Tennessee, a relaxing and meditative place actually. The subject of this video isn't about cemeteries or even really about those who lie within these hallowed grounds, but it is a fitting site for this discussion, which is about modern day leftist politics, which are threatening to destroy this country that we live in, at least those. I come from a liberal Democrat background. I was born and raised in Washington State. I was raised in a Democrat household. The first time I voted for president was for Walter Mondale, the Democrat opponent to Ronald Reagan in 1984. I supported many traditionally liberal causes. I was anti-war, still am. I supported legalization of cannabis, I still do. And I was a staunch environmentalist, and I still believe in being a good steward of the earth. But the liberal Democrat causes and organizations of the past that I supported have no real connection to the modern day, quote-unquote, liberal Democrat causes and organizations of today. I started seeing the writing on the wall a long time ago, and I walked away from the Democratic Party and Democratic politicians and most organized liberal causes a long time ago and started supporting third-party candidates and being generally independent from the major two parties. What was once a party and movement for empathy and human rights and compassion has turned into basically a movement of bullies and thugs and absolute brutality against the individual. You can say I'm being overly dramatic by saying that, but just look at today's news and you'll see exactly what I mean. No person with empathy or with kindness in their heart or who is anti-violence allegedly goes and supports the murdering of CEOs. They do not support the shooting and bombing of electric vehicle manufacturers like Tesla. They do not support assassination attempts. They do not support using lawfare against others to basically force their will upon others. Being a bully is something that I can't abide by, and I refuse to support whatsoever. Be a leftist Democrat and saying to yourself in an outraged manner, but we're fighting against fascism. We're fighting against fascism. We have to do anything we can to fight against fascism. I say that's a load of bull. Chances are pretty good that if you're throwing around the words fascist and Nazi, you do not know what those words mean and the implications of those words. Calling Donald Trump and Elon Musk fascists and Nazis could not be further from the truth. Now, granted, there are authoritarian tendencies within Donald Trump. That's granted, but that does not make him a Nazi or a fascist, and it certainly doesn't make Elon Musk a Nazi or a fascist. Fascism requires total government power and control. It needs power to survive and thrive. What Donald Trump is doing and what Elon Musk is doing through Doge is the exact opposite of government control. It is not fascist to cut government power and cut government funding. Now tell me, where do you hear such nonsense? Where are you fed this bullshit garbage that these people are fascists and Nazis? Can you tell me, where are you getting this information from? Are you getting it from TikTok? Or are you getting it from goofy ass goth musicians and performers like Vision Video and Goth Daddy? Now, I'm not going to get my political ideas from some guy wearing ultra femme makeup while calling himself Goth Daddy. That's pretty creepy. And this brings up another point. What's the obsession with protecting pedophiles, sex offenders, and all of that? Why has the left taken up the defense of dangerous deviants who wish to prey on children and the vulnerable? Where has liberalism lost its way to the point that they would endorse firebombings, assassinations, bullying tactics, lawfare, coddling sexual offenders and criminals, to the point they're even opposing getting rid of violent criminals from South America and deporting them, people who murder children. Where have liberals and you who are potentially watching, who is a liberal, a Democrat, why do you support violence? Why do you support thuggishness? Because it's against Donald Trump? That's the most irrational excuse that I've ever heard in my life. Can you show me on the doll where Donald Trump hurt you? Where has he gone and taken away your rights? Oh, but what is a right? Do you have the right to everything on this earth? Can you just take whatever you want and claim it as your own? No, that's called theft. That's not a right. When you make a claim to somebody else's property or money, if what you demand requires the obligation of another person, that's not a right. You have certain inalienable rights. That's the right to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. Nothing more, nothing less. Donald Trump has not taken away your right to life. He has not taken away your property. He's not taken away your liberty. What has he done to take away your rights? He's done nothing. And believe me, I don't want to be defending any politician whatsoever. I'm generally anti-politician. Now, there's a few out there that I have supported in the past, like Ron Paul and Thomas Massey and Rand Paul. They land on the libertarian side of things. They're generally skeptical of all government. Doesn't matter what party you belong to. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you belong to, philosophically or principles or whatever. That's generally anti-government, wanting smaller, less powerful government because, and this is a mistake that a lot of liberals and Democrats have, they believe that if they go and do things like try and dox people or try and take down Donald Trump through lawfare, they don't realize that what they're establishing right now can be used against them later. Well, you know what? That's happening right now. The chickens are coming home to roost, and these are their chickens that the Democrats have raised over a few decades. What's it going to take to create a party and a movement of empathy, compassion, peace, voluntarism? Because the Democrat Party doesn't represent that anymore. What's it going to take? Is it going to take a new party? Is it going to take abandoning politics altogether? Is it going to take, dare say, joining the Republican Party? Because the party of my youth, the Republican Party of my youth, does not at all reflect the party of today. It's a completely different creature altogether. It actually is standing up for the working person right now. It's standing up against power, against government power. That's not to say there are still some people in the Republican Party who love government power for their own purposes, and I reject people like that, and I think the Republican Party should vomit them out. So what say you, so-called empathetic and compassionate goths? Those of you who think that compassion and empathy mean assassination, murder, fire bombings, graffiti, vandalism, and just generally being ugly thugs and brutes. What say you? Because your actions do not match your words. You say you're compassionate, you say you're empathetic, but cheer on the destruction of property, the ending of lives, the doxing and harassment of people who simply don't agree with you and simply just want to be left alone to their own devices. Why do you feel this overwhelming need to harass, to bother, and generally intimidate others into your way of thinking? Either they join your way of thinking, or they're going to be ostracized, called Nazis and fascists, and maybe have things done to them that are very horrible and unsavory, things that you would not wish to be done to yourself. And the problem is, the more you do this, the more likely it's going to bounce back to you. A quick question for you. Since when is compulsory conformity a goth value? Let's be honest, you're not empathetic, you're not compassionate. You're just a brute, you're just a thug, and you're cheerlead for brutality and thuggery and harassment. How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel like you're living a lie? Because you are. And you're an embarrassment to the goth community. an absolute shame and a disgrace to the goth community, and you need to be called out on it. You're not going to harass, you're not going to be a thug anymore to us, because we're going to stand up against you. I've been around since the 1980s. We were accepting of all people. We weren't harassing people, we weren't doxing people, we weren't being violent. We were being accepting. Didn't mean we have to like what you believed in, and in fact, we would just, if we didn't like you, we just go off somewhere else and leave you to your own devices. You know, the right to association also implies a right to disassociate peacefully, voluntarily, not using violence and force. And unfortunately, the modern goth community, to a large degree, is embracing violence and force. For what end? For what end? So people can conform? You're trying to enforce conformity to a particular worldview. This is not acceptable, and it's not even rational to do that. But seriously, try and try you might. You are not going to be successful. History is not on your side. It's time to learn to be truly empathetic, to be truly compassionate, and to be truly inclusive of other people, no matter their views. I know it's difficult in this day and age with short attention spans and TikTok, or I call it toxic talk. I know it's difficult, but I have faith in you that you can reform your ways and become better people, truly compassionate and accepting people. But until such time, those of us in the goth community who've remained silent for the most part, we've had it up to here with your bullshit and your nonsense and your thuggery, and we're not going to take it anymore. The time has come for you to start acting like you're members of a civil society and actual human, empathetic human beings for once, instead of getting all dressed up in your goth finery, dancing around in your bedrooms and saying, just to remind you, you can't be conservative and goth. Well, you know, I'm not conservative and I'm not liberal. But your nonsense, your bizarre definitions of what right-wing is, or what fascism or what Nazism is, your bizarre definitions are pushing people like me who are more independent, more libertarian, into the conservative right-wing point of view. Well, you're ignorant. And ignorance tends to play out in violence and thuggery and just nonsense like what you're doing right now. You don't know what you're talking about. You hold no real power. You're low achievement people who strike out on TikTok trying to somehow force conformity amongst everybody within the scene. For what? Again, because you're low achievement. Just because you got TikTok doesn't mean anything. In fact, actually, I kind of have pity for you that you live your life around TikTok. But you need to start doing some soul searching. Go out and touch some grass for once. I know you like saying that, but you know what? You need to go touch some grass. Again, we're tired of your nonsense. We're tired of your bullshit. And we're not going to take it anymore. Bye-bye.